since Steve isn't here for the first two yet.
Okay. Let's start with 4 and 5.
Okay.
And then go to 1.
Okay, who's staffing this?
I am.
Besides you, nobody else. This is it?
They were supposed to 9:15. I can read it.
Oh, no, it's okay. Should we wait a few more minutes? We'll wait.
Okay.
Why not? 4 and 5, right? Uh-huh. Meeting, it's 9:18. Let's go with item number 1.
Item number 1 are Board of Airport Commissioner and City Administrative Officer reports relative to a terminal space lease and lease agreement with Hawaiian Airlines for Terminal 2 space at Los Angeles International Airport.
And what is item 2? We'll do them together.
They are also, item 2 is also Airport Commissioners and City Administrative Officer reports, and it's for airline terminal lease space with Air Canada at the same place.
Very good, very good. Good morning.
Morning.
Give us a brief update on all this stuff, where we're at. The chair is coming in. Lieutenant Governor, in my opinion. Matters of state. We just started item 1 and 2.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Steve Martin, Los Angeles World Airports. Good morning. The 2 items, the leases with Air Canada and Hawaiian Airlines, are sort of the final step on settling up a dispute that we had for a long time on Terminal 2. Terminal 2 had been leased to a company called LAX 2 Corporation through 2025. We've terminated that lease. Hawaiian and Air Canada, who are airlines, have been at the airport for years. We're shareholders in that corporation, and these leases basically keep them in place, even though the master lease with Terminal 2 Corporation is now gone away.
Let me ask you some questions,
Sure.
Ms. Hahn. Can you give us a brief update on the lawsuits related to Terminal 2 and the status of the proposed settlement agreement? Just what can you say outside of closed session?
Basically, we have a settlement agreement that's been approved, and these 2 leases are punch list items to closing on that settlement agreement. And so this would bring the whole transaction to an end and would end the Terminal 2 lease, and it would revert to LAWA.
Very good. And the second question is for both the Hawaiian lease and the Air Canada lease. Can you please describe the main differences between the proposed leases and the existing ones?
Well, the existing lease turns the entire terminal over to a company that was run by a consortium of airlines that originally started with Pan Am, People's Express, and a bunch of other airlines that aren't at LAX anymore. This lease is simply a small premises lease within the building, not the whole building itself. So it's just the ticket counters and other small operation space that they have. They don't run the building, they just occupy space as tenants.
Does it impact the operating costs of these carriers?
It will increase the cost of these carriers over the next 8 years, which is the lease term, but it'll increase it to the cost of every other airline on the airport.
2 more questions. Does Hawaiian and Air Canada operate at any other airports in Southern California?
I believe Air Canada operates at Orange County. I do not know about Hawaiian Airlines.
And my last question is, how does the Delta Northwest merger affect the Terminal 2 discussions or the use of terminal space at LAX?
Very good questions.
Yeah, you know,
Well, Northwest was one of the shareholders in LAX 2 Corporation. When Delta acquired Northwest, they moved Northwest into Terminal 5,
Right.
which solved an underutilization problem in Terminal 5, so they were
Right.
using 5 better. And Delta, the new owner of Northwest, was very cooperative in bringing the Terminal 2 litigation to closure and settling.
Nice.
So it's given us a terminal back. The merger
for
is Delta.
Delta.
Yep.
I like Delta.
Good job,
Hey, what-
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good job. Okay.
CLTV days, you know, get a little script.
Yeah,
and
you're
run
very
with it.
good. Okay. So what do is there a
We would just
motion to approve that?
approve, yeah.
Okay.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now where are we?
We're down to item 3
Great.
are also air,
Okay.
four,
Just three. Just
three, I'm
right
sorry,
now.
yeah.
Under item 3, the Board of Airport
Great.
Commissioners submits for approval a replacement lease with MPG Inc. for the use of aviation land and a city-owned hangar at Van Nuys Airport. This is for the maintenance and storage of propeller aircraft for a term of 15 years. The
Okay.
CAO also has submitted a report and recommendation for approval.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Monica Milos from Los Angeles World Airports Leasing and Development Group.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to present for your consideration a replacement lease for MPG Inc. for the continued use of aviation at Van Nuys Airport. MPG is a woman-owned business enterprise that provides propeller aircraft facility. The Van Nuys Master Plan restricts the proposed leasehold to, restricts the proposed leasehold to the exclusive use of propeller aircraft of less than 12,500 pounds and military aircraft older than 1950. MPG has been a tenant in good standing and has completed the leasehold capital investments under an interim lease that expired in August of 2009. The purpose of the interim agreement was to provide LAWA with an opportunity to consider issues related to exclusive propeller aircraft use and the capital investments required and the rental rates for Van Nuys Airport. The lease will be for a 15-year term and adjust the rental rate to fair market value for the period 2010 to 2015. And it does provide for automatic annual adjustments to per CPI for the leasing policy for Van Nuys Airport. And the Van Nuys Airport Deficit Recovery Program will be applicable to this lease when adopted by the Board of Airport Commissioners.
I don't have any questions.
So, this is a replacement lease
Yes.
as opposed to an extension or,
It is, well, she has been on the premises since 1991, and I believe 1991.
right,
And she has been trying to pursue a long-term lease for many years.
I see.
And so this one, we've negotiated a term of 15 years.
And how did you come up with 15 years?
It was a long process. It was a
It was
long
a
process.
15-year
In fact,
process.
There's been a lot of changes at Van Nuys
What did
Airport
she
with-
want?
She wanted 30 years.
She wanted 30 years, in terms of the ability to what, invest?
Actually,
make
it was
improvements.
based on the executive directives, and there were many replacement leases approximately
Mm-hmm.
3-4 years ago that were being renewed for long-term leases.
Mm-hmm.
But we are looking at the capital investment at the airport, and the executive management was the term and the investment were what, it's a small leasehold with only 2 acres. So the term, we're trying to get lesser terms rather than longer terms. And so it was difficult, but
Right. And how long she's been there since 91, you said?
1991.
1991. So she's a good tenant.
Yes, and there's only 2 existing leaseholds now that are designated for propeller use only.
Right.
There's the third one, which is the propeller park that we're still negotiating with us.
Yes, and that's a 30-acre propeller aircraft park will soon be developed.
Yes.
And so, and how will this fit together?
They will have the same use, but the propeller park is going to be much larger and have fueling facilities for propeller aircraft. And they'll be compatible.
Uh-huh.
And that will suffice for our.
And there's room for both?
There's definitely room for both.
Right. So what was the downsides of giving her the 30-year lease?
That I can't answer that.
Right. Oh, yes. Why didn't you want to give this woman-owned business,
Here you
who's been
go.
a good tenant,
See?
what she wanted?
Yeah, busted.
You know what they say, give a woman what she wants, and then everybody's happy. And why you men just can't understand that.
We're trying.
That's why we want her as lieutenant governor.
Give women what they want. Okay, why didn't you give her what she wanted?
The only issue really is the configuration of the land near the runway and the fact that really there is no investment opportunity there. this parcel is very close to the runways. You can't really build anything on it. And we've tried to establish a policy or a procedure at Van Nuys that says term is driven by your investment commitment. Unfortunately for this parcel, there's really no ability to do material investment. So we took the approach that rather than setting a new precedent by giving a long term for no investment, which would probably live to regret in the next deal, we kind of found the middle ground and said, let's find a medium-term lease, and there's really not an opportunity for investment. So it was worrying about setting a precedent for a 30-year term with no investment.
Okay, and while I have you here, how's the Van Nuys noise abatement and curfew regulation ordinance working from the point of view of airport users as well as the surrounding neighborhoods?
Well, I mean, we haven't had any on the noisy jet phase-out issue. We have had no backlash whatsoever, and I think we're almost done the soundproofing in Van Nuys. There are just a few homes left. I think the homes that may be left that haven't been soundproofed that are eligible for it are owners who have not agreed or wanted to be soundproofed. So I think it's going reasonably well. The fact that traffic has been down at Van Nuys might make the complaint quotient a little bit lower. But I think we're at the end of a lot of long noise mitigation processes at Van Nuys that we actually can see the finish line. So.
Okay. All right, good. All right, well, so both sides ended up obviously agreeing to this, so.
Yes.
So hopefully everybody's happy. Okay, should we approve this replacement lease?
So
Okay,
agreed.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, you want to take items 4 and 5 together. These are the annual progress reports on the community benefits agreement, as well as the
Yes.
annual reports on the mitigation monitoring and reporting program,
Yes.
and the annual reports on traffic generation and aviation activity.
Oh, okay. All right. Good morning.
Good morning. Michael Feldman with LA World Airports.
And Joyce Sloss, also Los Angeles World Airports.
And what we thought we'd do is we'd run through really the highlights from the report, starting on page 1. No, just kidding. And I'll make a few summary comments about the progress that was made, and then turn it over to Joyce to talk about the jobs portion. So in both the community benefits agreement and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, there's a number of items that we need to report back to you on annually. The first one I wanted to cover briefly was green buildings. And to point out a couple of things, the Tom Bradley International Terminal renovation project did achieve a LEED Silver rating. That's over 1 million square feet of renovation and upgrades that are LEED Silver. And as far as we know, there's no other airport renovation that's come close to the size and achieving that sort of LEED certification. And I think you all know that there's a ribbon cutting on the 26th of May, and I believe you've both been invited, so we are hopeful that you
Cut
can.
enough ribbons, you know. When are we going to finish the project?
Well, this one, this is the formal. It's actually finished and in operation, but we just couldn't get it scheduled any sooner. Thank you. In terms of green power, just wanted to point out that we participate in the LADWP Green Power for LA program and have already achieved a 25% target for green power at LAX.
I don't know.
In terms of electrification, all passenger gates at the existing terminals have been electrified. Over 55% of the gates do have preconditioned air, and all of the passenger gates at the new Bradley West project will have electricity and preconditioned air and infrastructure to accommodate ground support equipment chargers. And I'll come back and talk about that just in a minute. In terms of alternative fuel vehicles, over 71% of LAWA's fleet vehicles and equipment at LAX are alternative fuel vehicles.
Very good.
That includes over 555 alternative fuel vehicles as part of our fleet. 555. 100% of the LAX courtesy shuttle fleet is powered by natural gas. 85% of the rental car shuttles are alternative fuel or are equipped with a particulate trap to really reduce the emissions from the diesel engines. And 7 of the 10 rental car companies are actually 100% alternative fuel or particulate.
They're
travel.
shuttles.
Yes, correct.
Excellent.
In terms of the transportation-related mitigation measures, the flyaway program, I think you're all aware that we initiated an Irvine flyaway in November of 2009. The overall flyaway network is carrying approximately 3,800 passengers per day. Our calculation indicates that's approximately a 65,000 vehicle mile travel reduction per day. And then in terms of noise, the sound attenuation measures, we've been very actively working and supporting the application, the PFC application by the Lenox School District for soundproofing of many of their schools, and that the submittal of the application and commencement of the collection of funds is expected in late 2010. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting with the conference call with the superintendent of the Lenox School District just earlier this week to work
Now,
on.
when you say collection of funds, what does that mean?
The passenger facility charge. The passenger facility charge is the funding source for this mitigation effort, and the passenger facility charge is a charge that is applied to every ticket that is
Right.
sold at SeaTac.
Right.
And in this case, we have to do the application with the FAA, and once that's approved and we start collecting that, we
How much are you collecting for that?
right now the PFC is set at $4.
No, how much are you going to be collecting for the
You know, I don't
mitigation?
have the annual revenue from that, but we can certainly get back to you with
So
that.
you have to do it annually? You have to apply?
No, but I can tell you what
Oh,
what we
okay.
believe the annual collection would be.
So is this a one-time collection for this soundproofing?
No, it
or
will
it's ongoing?
it's
It's
on-
annual?
that's correct.
But you don't know how much it is?
I don't recall that.
And you do have to apply every year for
Once
it?
the application, this PFC application is approved, we would be able to
Automatic.
fund their program, yes.
With
That's correct.
1 year?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're going to go up from $4?
No, the PFC application is actually for multiple years,
Okay.
yes.
But you only apply once
That's correct.
for this mitigation?
I'm hoping Steve's shaking his head.
I know, I'm looking back at all these guys. That was convoluted the way you described that. Yeah, you see what I'm asking?
Yep. The way the PFC program works is you apply on a project-by-project basis. So
I
if you have a
see.
$20 million project, you submit an application
I
for that,
see.
and you collect for the duration of time it takes to get that
To
money.
get, I see, okay,
And
that
we're
was.
always adding projects to the
I
end
see.
of that stream.
I
So
see.
the projects are
And do you know the
sequenced.
price tag for this soundproofing?
No, the FAA has to make a determination about what portion of the project is eligible. So if you have,
We don't have that determination yet?
not for the Lenox schools, because of where
Okay.
the noise contour line fits and what
Okay.
it would take to actually institute the mitigation. That is, what is the remedy? Is it new windows? Is it replacement
I
facilities?
see.
Is it, so we don't have a scope of work yet to say what the remedy is to reduce the noise to an acceptable level. And I think Lenox has to provide that to us, and the FAA has to approve.
So they approve the scope of work, the FAA has to approve it?
Yes.
Yes. And that's what we were working with the school district on just this week, is some more of the details that need to go in that.
What's your
application.
timeline on this?
Well, we're trying to do it really fast
Yeah.
after a lot of delay and some eligibility questions with FAA, which we've finally gotten resolved, I think, about whether the schools could be soundproofed at all. FAA is
Has
now
said-
saying they'll entertain the application, so we're trying to get that done this year. So,
Okay.
Take us from that $4 up. What are we going to do?
well, we're currently at $450, which is the federal maximum allowance. There's a couple of bills floating around Congress that would
Right.
raise that ceiling, possibly to $7, but I
Right.
believe the House bill has 7 and the Senate bill has no increase. And it has yet
That's
to
the
go
way
to
it was
conference.
2 years ago, a year ago, and we're trying to get it up. Is Laura Richardson taking the lead in the House? Who's taking the lead in the House? Harmon, Waxman, anybody?
I don't know. It's really caught up in some other issues. This is not a standalone
Right.
PFC issue. It's caught up with the entire FAA reauthorization.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
Are we talking to Barbara Boxer or Feinstein's office?
I think we're talking to everybody. We've actually
Okay.
put a lot of
I
effort.
mean, I really want to report back on that because I
Okay.
wanted
Yeah.
to go up to that $7 plus.
Yep.
It's time, this 4.5 is crazy, and whatever we need to do, the mayor needs to do, or us need to do, we want to do it. We wanna
Okay,
get that
we'll report
going.
back on that.
Okay,
3 years languishing.
Yeah.
okay, so,
Thank you. If I could, I'd like to turn it over to Joyce to talk just very briefly about some of the jobs program results.
Good morning. The First Source Hiring Program is LAWA's program to allow local residents or residents most impacted by the airport to know about and apply for the jobs at the airport. And as when we last spoke, we were doing this in a manual method, but since that time, we now have an automated method by which local residents can apply for the positions at the airport. The results to date have been that we have referred close to over 2,700 candidates for close to 1,000 positions, and we have confirmed over 600 hires for this program. Now, that number may be a little bit higher because we are in the process of transitioning over to the fully automated program.
And what are some of these jobs?
The jobs include, customer service positions with all of the different restaurants and retail outlets. And also, I'd like to point out that we have established a very collaborative relationship with Walsh Austin Joint Venture. They are the contractor who has been selected to handle the Bradley West Gates and the core project. And because of our relationship with them, they have actually given us about 60 high-level professional positions, which we have been working with them to fill. Most of those positions, the salary ranges are from $50,000 to over $100,000 per year.
Excellent.
And we have worked with them to fill those positions. So,
What about with their new concessions awarding? Was there a collaboration with First Hiring?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the concessionaires are very, very participate in our program. Now, we don't have new concessionaires on board yet, but
right.
once they are on board, we will work with them. But the concessionaires actually love the program, and in fact,
Okay.
they are the ones who give testimonies about how well the program is working for them.
Excellent.
And then just one other thing, the job training program is not an officially approved FAA program. However, we still conduct job training by working with collaborative partners, community partners. And so as a result of those collaborations, and this includes pre-apprenticeship construction program training,
Right.
as well as other job training for incumbent workers. And we have been able to refer over 400 candidates, and about 300 have completed the
Excellent.
training.
So the job training was one of those that was not approved by...
That's correct.
And First Source Hiring Program?
The First Source Hiring
was.
Program was approved by
Yeah.
the FAA, so we are
Okay.
able to officially conduct that program, and
Right.
so
The
it's going
FAA is
well.
okay with us hiring, but not okay with training those people for jobs.
And the issue was they wanted to see a direct connection between the training and the airport job. That was what they had stated in their response to us.
Right, but didn't we show them that?
At this point, it's
We can't show them that?
I think it's now. I think the mayor's office is looking to.
Mr. Molina, you look like you just want to say something. I know, I can tell. I can tell.
Mike Molina, External Affairs. The original rejection by the FAA on the job training program had to do with the fact that we did not provide a compelling enough argument that the jobs or the people who were training were going to go directly into airport jobs.
Why can we provide that compelling testimony?
It's happening now.
Okay.
We're reshaping the proposal, the argument, so that we can show that the persons who are going to be trained are going to be directly linked into
Right.
jobs. You asked earlier about the concession program. There is, in fact, a selected concessionaire that is going through the process right now that has really bought onto this and has actually committed to the implementation of a culinary institute.
Yes.
That they will, with their celebrity chefs, train persons that would be connected directly into airport jobs. Those are the that's the nexus that the FAA wants to see before they give the approval.
Okay. Very good, which is why yesterday we had a problem with entering into contracts before FAA gave approval, because it's, ultimately they get there, but it can't stop us from moving forward
That's right.
with some of our projects. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that's it. So we're doing job training, and the job
Okay.
First Source Hiring
Excellent.
is going well.
Excellent, okay. Anything else?
I'm ready.
Let me just ask, are we still meeting regularly with the group,
The coalition?
the coalition?
Yes.
And how's that? Are there issues that are regularly need to be resolved, or is everybody pretty much happy with how this is moving forward?
Well, actually, this just transitioned. The management of the interaction with the coalition just transitioned, or isn't transitioning, from Mr. Molina to myself. In the last meeting, we had a very good discussion with the coalition about the third-party monitoring program that governs construction on the airfield projects. And that was the primary source of, or the primary focus for that agenda. But the group was very impressed with the results of that program, and I didn't choose to go into it very much. But we are looking at emissions from construction equipment being reduced by close to 90%.
That's excellent. That's very excellent.
It's been a tremendous program.
Again, I still say that this community benefits agreement is really very successful. I like the way it's being, implemented. To me, it's a model for anything people want to do when it comes to community benefits agreements. We're trying to model our Port of Los Angeles, some community benefit agreements there after this one. This one's just very successful, and I appreciate how airport staff believes in this, puts their resource towards it, and it's really gratifying for us to see how well this is doing. Are there any big issues that the coalition brings up that still are unresolved, or when you meet, what's the tone, or do you think?
I would say that, yeah, just to respond to your comment earlier, it is a model. And
Yeah.
what we believe in as an airport is that communication is key through this entire CBA process. That's why the meetings with the coalition are so important, and they're held on a regular basis so that interaction can continue. And it's just not at the meetings; it's in between the meetings as well. As Mike said,
Right.
he was just talking to the superintendent of the Lenox School, so that communication
Right.
continued.
Right. Really-
The Lenox issue was a big issue,
Yeah.
and it took the majority of our discussions in the last year and a half as we were waiting for the legislation to go through and then the FAA to come up with its regulations.
Right.
That was a huge issue. Right now, we're working on some air quality issues
Right.
that seems to be
Right.
the focus of the
Right.
coalition right now.
But the
And-
coalition, I never get a sense from the coalition that they feel like you're not partnering with them or going to bat for them. That's what I
good to
like
hear.
about this
That's
one.
good to hear.
It's a little different feeling, with all due respect, at the Port of Los Angeles, where you have commissioners, kind of grumbling when money is being set aside for community benefits. It's a very different feeling here, and I appreciate it. And I think that's the model we need. It's still antagonistic, I think, at the Port of Los Angeles with our proposed community benefits agreement. So I appreciate what you're doing. It's a model, and I really respect particularly the staff and how much you believe in this and really are willing to do it. I think the long-term benefits are really still unrealized, and how important this is. So thank you for that update. Anything
Okay, I
on
got a
this?
lot of questions, because
Okay,
this
take it
agreement
away.
has to do with a lot of things, not just all of the benefits for people with jobs. We said 5 years ago that we would conduct a full and comprehensive air quality and source apportionment study. This is something my Westchester and Playa del Rey residents have been waiting for a long time. Over a year ago, we talked about placement of these air quality monitors, but I haven't heard anything since. Given all of the new construction in LAX and the additional improvements that we will soon consider, I want to prioritize and follow through on this commitment. What is the status of the air quality study, and can you tell me when it will be done?
We're as concerned as you are about the air quality source apportionment study and how to effectively proceed with it. We want the study to produce good data. The first sampling and monitoring, the pilot effort, did not really accomplish what everybody had hoped it would. So we are attempting to really go out on the bleeding edge of what is possible in terms of air sampling, monitoring, and analysis. And you can spend millions of dollars very quickly and not get a good result.
Right.
So we are very focused on trying to make sure that we structure the next round of sampling in a way that will give us as much potential to get enough information so that we can really make good decisions and actually understand what's going on. There are a lot of air sources in the area around the airport, as you well know, the freeway, the refinery, et cetera, and trying to fingerprint the different molecules that are emitted from the different emission sources is pushing the limit of what is really doable scientifically. And that's our primary concern, is making sure that we structure this thing.
When do you figure you'll get that together?
I think that we'll have a technical approach probably within the next few months. You recognize that the sampling study, as it's currently defined, would have us doing sampling and monitoring for over a year at multiple locations. And that may or may not be actually necessary to answer the questions we've been asked to answer.
Okay, can you give us a report back on this in 90 days? If you said a couple of 3-4 months,
Yes, I can.
let us know exactly where we're at. You know, at the Santa Monica Airport, I don't know if you know Joan and Marty Rubin, who are two incredible activists with a whole group of community.
I have not met them yet.
They have, it's been clear that the ultrafine particle emissions from jet engines are a serious concern. Will such emissions at LAX be considered as part of the air quality study?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Would you please describe what the preferential runway use policy at LAX is and why we have it, and what do we do to enforce it?
The preferential runway use really is fairly simple. During the day, that's from 7 in the morning until 10 at night. The inboard runways on both runway complexes are used for departures. The louder of the two events, a landing or a departure, and then the approaching or arriving aircraft land on the outboard runways. Now, during the evening hours when the operation reverses, the same pattern is true for the most part, unless there's a runway down for maintenance or something like that. Mm-hmm. But that's primarily the issue. Now, I think, so that's
good enough.
That's how it works.
Okay, a recent email from the FAA to Congresswoman Jane Harman's office suggests that to departure track for runway 24R at LAX, the outboard runway on the North Airfield, conflicts with the Santa Monica Airport, and that this is why more jets have to idle at Santa Monica Airport. Can you clarify that statement for me, particularly since our policy is not to use runway 24R for departures at LAX? And how does the departure track for runway 24R differ significantly from 24L? I know it sounds complicated, but we're basically looking at these idling jets at Santa Monica Airport, that the toxicity is going right into my Westdale, my Mar Vista, and West LA communities. It's extremely serious. And Ms. Harman showed real leadership with wanting to take those planes out of the LAX monitoring thing, make a little bit of a right turn, which unfortunately the city of Santa Monica would get what we suffer in LA all the time, but it would lessen the idling of those jets, and the westerlies just throw it in the lungs of my folks, because there's no buffer zone between that little airport and the community. And frankly, that airport should shut down. It belonged there 90 years ago, but not today. My people have had enough of it. So this is Ms. Harman's strategy. How does that work with that?
On the use of the North Airfield complex, the FAA uses the northernmost runway for departures when they have landings on the inboard runway. So some of the heavy flights, particularly some of the big international arrivals, either can't or won't land on the outboard runway. So the FAA puts departures on that runway. When departures go on that runway, there is not a limiting factor for the plane to cut the corner, quite frankly. Where the plane's taking off on the inboard runway, the airspace of the outboard runway prevents the plane from cutting the corner, because if a plane that's landing on the outboard does a missed approach, the inboard guy has to stay straight. He can't cut the corner. It's, I would say, too easy on 24 right to cut the corner if that's used for departures. And so that's really the problem that we need to look at. And that's where Santa Monica takes a hold, because they're trying to make a plane either do a turn to go eastbound or do a turn to go northbound. And rather than sending them out further into the ocean before turning, they can turn easier because the airspace is not blocked. So we'd rather not have departures on 24 right. But it happens today because some of the heavy landings go in on 24 left.
Fair enough. Can you report back in 60 days with information on the compliance with the preferential runway use policy at LAX for the first quarter of this year, with specific information on how often we keep to the policy, when it is violated, and whether there were any actions taken or follow-ups, just like that
You bet.
report? What is the status of the noise monitoring program in LAX? How many noise monitors do we have in Westchester and Playa del Rey? And what do we do when we receive noise complaints from the community?
I'll handle that one. Well, the noise monitoring at LAWA we're now in the acceptance phase for a brand-new noise monitoring system that covers all of the airports. The system was approximately $3.5 million system. There are 3 noise monitors in Playa del Rey and 6 noise monitors in Westchester. When complaints are fielded, about 90% of the complaints that come in are now come in over the web. Some people still do call, but most of it's done on the web. When people indicate that they want a response, they receive not only a letter that really includes the diagnosis or the findings of the particular event they called to complain about, but they also will also receive all of the information about that particular time period for the activity that was occurring around when they called to complain. So it's a very interactive process. Every one of the responses does get responded to. There is a limiting factor.
How quickly?
I want to say within a few days. But one of the issues that we do have a few people who are very frequent callers.
We have those too.
And so I think that to avoid having staff just get burned up with 1 or 2 people, there's sort of 5 complaints per household per month is sort of a threshold, because you can have somebody calling every day or multiple times per day. And but for the most part, every one of the complaints does get a response.
Those 6 spots and those other 3 spots, the 9 you mentioned, were community involvement picking those spots, or is community aware where those monitors are?
I believe there's a tremendous amount of awareness given the process that was done to site those locations, and a few of them did have to be relocated just because of the change in the noise exposure.
Could you get us a list of those
Absolutely.
9, where they are, so we can send it to the community people so they're all
You bet.
comfortable? For both the CBA and the MMRP, can you please list the programs and initiatives that have been rejected by the FAA, and what were their reasons for being rejected? You know, as you know, Bernard Parks a few weeks ago described problems with the jobs program. Just want to know and get back to us with that, or unless you want to comment now.
As far as I know, it's only the job training program that has been brought to the FAA that we have received a rejection. And as I said earlier, we're working on round 2 to try to come up with a package that will be seen more favorably by the FAA so that we can find success.
Seems like you could make that case,
Yeah, really.
that the jobs that are being trained are directly associated with the airport.
I think we're more advanced and a lot smarter than we were 3 years ago, 4 years ago when the letter was originally submitted.
Right.
So I think we'll find success this time.
Right.
What ultimately happened with the soundproofing money for the Lenox Public Schools? I know you talked about it, but what happened with it?
Well, I mean, that's the part we were talking
That's
about
what we're
earlier
talking
with
about.
PFC. So we have not collected the funds to do the Lenox Public Schools yet.
Yeah.
So the money is.
Will you have a timetable? Do you think you can get some kind of sensing on that for
Well,
us?
we're trying to get the approval of the project and the collections for the project by the end of this year.
By the end of this year. Okay.
But Councilman, a lot of work has gone in since the legislation was passed 18 months ago.
Yeah.
A lot has happened since then, some great progress, wonderful collaboration with the Lenox School District. We had to first determine the method by which the FAA was going to
Sure.
approve. We did that.
Yeah.
And since then, we've been working with the Lenox School District in going with school by school, coming up with the list. And then we are now in the process of going through those lists with the FAA to determine the exact number that we will apply for PFCs so that we can see, hopefully in the next school year, a pretty good disbursement of funds to the school district.
Okay, I'm a little frustrated by the way they've been acting with us on that. And if you need to politicize it, we do have all these incumbents running for election and all kinds of politics going on. That could be helpful. What is the status of the soundproofing program for CD11, including the end-of-the-block soundproofing? I think you're doing a great job in completing this program so quickly, but my office has received concerns regarding letters from LAWA announcing the end of the program. When will that happen, and can we do more to publicize the deadlines?
Well, what we're trying to do is.
No, we need to wrap up, you guys. It's
Yeah,
like
okay.
it's like 4 till
A
10.
couple of real quick ones.
Okay.
We're trying, I mean,
Still got 2 more items.
we are very close, and what we're trying to do is encourage the people who have not responded or have not applied to apply, to let them know that we need to move on and try to bring the project to closure.
Yeah.
So this is really a last call to.
Okay, would you get that information to Chad so we can talk to our people in our community real quickly about that? I'd like to get that real quickly.
Absolutely.
What is the status of soundproofing for places of worship? Has the FAA approved that? Any issues with that?
I haven't heard, I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Okay, get back to us on that, too.
Okay.
Can you please go into more detail, and we got to go quickly regarding, well, you did the passenger gate, you don't have to deal with that. Can you please report back to our next CC meeting on the status of the Dunes Restoration Project?
Yep.
This is a big one for a lot of folks, and the Street Lights Project that are part of the stipulated settlement. These were 2 stipulated settlement issues that still are.
Both are issues of the settlement agreement, not
Yeah.
the CBA
Yeah,
or the
right.
MMRP,
Yeah,
but
that's
we're
right.
happy to give you a report back.
Yeah, because both the dune restoration and the street lighting project.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And does your commission, the airport commission, gets regular updates on these?
Yes,
this
absolutely.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we got 6 and 7.
Under item 6, the Board of
Huh?
Harbor. Oh, yes, on
Yes.
4
Auto
and
report
5.
backs, guys.
Note and
Thanks.
file. Yes. We will note and file. Okay,
Under item 6, the Board of Harbor Commissioners and City Attorney submit the Second Amendment to the agreement between the Harbor Department and DPRA Incorporated for litigation support in the field of environmental forensics. This is to extend the existing contract by 2 years to expire on April 25th, 2012.
Good morning. Ken
hi, just a
Mansfield.
couple minutes on 6 and 7, so give it to us. Well, I just was going to let you know that 6 and 7, so just quickly.
Okay.
6.
Ken Matfield, Deputy City Attorney.
Yes, what do you want to tell us on this?
This is my expert witness that does the chemical fingerprinting and assists with fate and transport of.
Okay, and this is regarding to the which lawsuit?
the Kinder Morgan lawsuit at
Okay.
Birth 171.
Okay.
It's tied up. We have actually a litigation stay. The judge will not set a trial date until the Regional Water Quality Board settles on cleanup standards for soil and groundwater. It was baffling to me that they don't, that's so far out of their reach. I mean, and it's actually now probably headed for litigation. Kinder Morgan may very well sue the Regional Water Board over those standards. It'll end up in a separate lawsuit.
And so we need this contract for two more years?
I'm hoping that we'll get it to trial in 2 years, but
Wow.
this proceeding with the water board could take, it's just remarkable how long
And you
it
still
takes.
need this expert,
Eventually, at trial, we certainly will, yes. And
but in the meantime,
I have to keep them on.
you
I
have
mean,
to keep
there's
'em on.
hundreds
Is there
of
what-
thousands of dollars I've spent to build up a body of knowledge with 2 PhDs
right.
doing data
You
analysis.
can't wait until
But I keep.
you're closer to the trial, or?
We keep them idling, I mean, but you never know.
Okay, and how much are these contracts for?
The
$675,000.
contract appropriation total is $975. We've spent about $790, so I have $180,000 left on the contract. I'm not asking for any additional appropriations. It's just to extend the time.
Oh, just extend it, so you've already got that, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fine,
Thank you.
okay.
Under item 7, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for approval the Fourth Amendment to the permit with Eagle Marine Services to implement the board-adopted 2010 Container Customer Initiative. This would incorporate the initiative measures into the Eagle Marine Services permit.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
So what is this for?
This is for, first of all, Catherine McDermott with the
Yes.
Port of Los Angeles. This is for our 2010 Customer Initiatives programs. The main focus of that is a 6% rebate or credit against payments due to our major container terminal customers. In 2009, we came before you to do some customer initiatives for our container terminals. They are the majority of our revenue at the port. And when the economic crisis hit them and hit us, we realized we needed to do something aimed at retaining cargo and retaining revenue.
Okay.
In 2010, we're doing the same. We just went with kind of a simpler model. The largest part of the program is a 6% rebate. There's also a couple other changes to our tariff in terms of empty discount and also transship cargo. This one is coming to you by itself, but you're going to see other amendments for the other 6 container terminals in the near future.
What is our volume?
Our volume at the end of 2009 was about 6.45 million TEUs. So if you look at our best year, which was 2006, we were over 8 million TEUs. So it's been a dramatic decline.
Right.
The first quarter of this year, we're up about 11% or 10%.
So what do we
plus or
think our
minus.
volume will be this year?
We think, we budgeted that for about a 2% increase. Right now, I think that is a very conservative estimate. It's been strong, but it's going to really depend on
So
what
do you think?
happens.
How many million containers?
I
this
think
year?
we should be over 6.4, maybe 7 million, and it's hard to tell. It's going to really rely on whether this is
Right.
recovery
And
or
when was the
growth.
last time we were at 7 million?
2007 or 8.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So that's good. I mean, that's very good news. That's very good news.
Yeah, we are hearing every day that we're busy again.
Yeah.
Terminals are busy, longshore is being employed, and if you look at, we have our terminal by terminal numbers that are proprietary, but we're really seeing there's a couple terminals with real dramatic increases. The Journal of Commerce reported today that a number of lines are both bringing on new services or upgrading services to bigger ships. So at the moment, things feel much better than last year.
Right. And I know you've worked as this is to provide some economic relief to your major customers. Is there a tipping point when you then look to withdraw that relief or level out a little bit in terms of the relief you're trying to give your customers?
I would tell you that we should not be back to you after this with another relief program. I think what we'll look at is how do we use our rates to try to incent new volumes. And so I think we're at the relief point, like with the economy, we've hit the low, and I think we've gotten past that.
Right.
But
I would think when last time we were at 7 million, I don't think we were involved in a relief
right,
package
right.
with our customers.
The world has changed. The world is getting more competitive. So again, now I think our marketing focus should be how do we incent new volumes? What can we do? And actually, we're going to look at a few things to say. How do we make the port function more efficiently? Can we in some way reward that? Looking at particular market sectors in BYD and what you'll see coming before you in the next several months on a zero-emission auto tariff would be examples of things we'll try to do to get at different market segments.
Okay, good. Okay. I'll recommend approval.
So moved.
Okay, that's it. Anybody in the audience wishing to address this committee? You have one gone. Okay, this meeting is adjourned.